You don't wanna never count yourself out, make it a great one. Just be sure to leave out the doubt. Time to
Hey, I'm Harrison, author and illustrator of Exit Without Leaving, and today I want to give you a framework. Now, what is a framework? A framework is essentially this way that we can digest how we do something better. And I want to give you a framework for how to build leaders, healthy leaders, that actually run the business for you. Now, this framework can be digested in many ways, but I'm just going to give you some examples as we walk through it instead of trying to explain the whole thing. I'm going to give you examples, real life examples of how this has worked out. So what I call this is the gig. This is the gig of healthy leaders. And if you think about it in this way, if your leaders don't embrace the gig, and we'll explain what the gig is, they can't help you run the business. They can't take ownership. And so this is something that you teach them, and then they teach their teams. And essentially it's a doing process. It's an expectation process. It's how in which that you will do this practically. So the first part of gig is actually grow. And what I mean by grow is that it is a mindset. You first have to share your mindset. How do you overcome problems? Why do you overcome problems? How do you consistently have a positive mindset on how you're going to overcome obstacles in your business? So growing is a mindset. Essentially, one way that we can do this is like one of my favorite clients. They just have a way about them. He's a president of a very large organization, and one of the ways in which he shares a growing mindset is he actually just has conversations. He shares with them ways that he's overcome things in the business. And he shares with them ways that they can overcome their obstacles and asks them for examples of ways in which that they are being held back. Now that all can sound light and fluffy, but essentially it's very practical. It's like you could say, hey, I know that you're dealing with short staff, right? And I want to share with you that there was a time that I had the exact same problem. And here's how I dealt with it. Yes, I had to dig in my heels and I had to go and just go do some of the work because there wasn't the person who was doing the work. There wasn't someone there that was able to do it. And I had to step in. You have to do that in those moments where you're short-staffed. But here's another thing that I did. I actually reached out to 40 or 50 of my friends and family and peers, and I asked them, I said, do you know someone that fits this characteristics? And I didn't even list the job. I just said these characteristics. They're hardworking. They know how to overcome things. They are tech-ish. They have a knack for wanting to lead people. Do you know anybody like that who would want to work for my organization? And instead of giving them the competency, you gave them the characteristics that you're looking for. This is a grow mindset. You're teaching your top line leaders how to think. The second part of the gig is invest. And if you haven't realized from now, this is actually an acronym: GIG, grow, invest, and then we'll go in the last one, which is guide. Invest is time and energy. Just as I shared with you that one of my favorite examples of a leader in a large organization who definitely takes the way in which he thinks and teaches it to his top line leaders, he also is really good at investing. So how do you invest in your leaders? I'm going to share another example of someone who invests in their leaders, and he's a great friend of mine. And Nick Dancer at Dancer, he's grown this business from nothing and grown it into what it is today. But how does he invest into his employees? He does it with time and he does it with energy. And what I mean by energy is that he actually shows that he's passionate about it and he gives his all when he's doing it. It doesn't mean that you have to have this personality, a big personality. It just means that they can see it, they can feel your passion behind that you want to invest in them. But how do you give your time to your top line leaders to invest in them, to help them build the business and take ownership of it? Well, time is one of those things that we literally can't skirt around it. It is what it is. You block off time in your week, in your calendar, to actually put forth into and invest in them. And so one way that Nick does this is that he has it on a reoccurring schedule. whether that's weekly or monthly or quarterly, that he actually sits down. And so if you look at his repetition of his rhythm of how he invests in his team, he has one-on-ones with certain people monthly. He has team group exercises that they do, whether it's for their strategy on coming together and looking forward, and he does that on a quarterly basis. And so annually, you get the team together and you do this strategic thinking. And so he has a rhythm of how he invests in his team one-on-one and how he invests into them as a group. The last one is guide. And again, I want to give you an example of what guiding means. So in guiding, we have this example of this picture for you of what it means to guide is somewhere between avoidance and control. And so what is avoidance? Avoidance is where you empower someone to do something, but then you say, hey, call me when something goes wrong, right? That's avoidance because you're actually avoiding them until something goes wrong. But then there's the control, and we all know what control is, that micromanagement. Do it like this and call this person at this time and do it like this. And you just you're constantly on them on how they should be doing it. And they're like, why did you even empower me to do this in the first place? Because you're not empowering me. You're just kind of puppeteering me at this time. Guidance is between avoidance and control. And a good example of guidance is one of my good friends, Tony. And so Tony, one of the things that he does with guidance is that he actually gives them expectations. Hey, this is the way in which you do it. Here's some examples. And he'll put this on paper. He'll put it into their shareable doc and say, here's some examples of what we've done in the past. And then he'll give accountability to it and say, here are the things that we want to have done and here's when we want to have them done. That's the accountability. And so he not only gives expectation, gives examples, but he gives accountability to it. And so guidance is that you actually guide them through how to do something, whether that's how to run a meeting or how to do this task or how to take responsibility or ownership of this area of our business. You're giving them expectations, you're giving them examples, right? But there's something that helps when we're thinking about how do we build leaders who run the business. These are the 3 ways in which you can do it, but there's something that gives these even more momentum. And that is, and we talked about one already, which is accountability. Accountability is how we're going to gain momentum in this. We're going to get there faster. And accountability could look as simple as one of the things we call is double tap. So if you are talking to one of your employees and you're saying, you're one of your top line leaders, and you're saying, hey, this is how you're going to do it. Here's the expectation. Here's when I want to see it back by. You just said it verbally. Now you need a double tap and do another way to show them and recap how you want it done. And so you might send them an invite with a due date, or you might send them an email with a recap of what you talked about. It takes a little bit more effort, but you're creating accountability by double tapping. And so we essentially want to double tap and create accountability in all areas of how you teach them the gig. The second thing, and I'm just going to abbreviate this, which is learn from anyone or anything. And essentially, that's what the AA is for, is anyone or anything. And essentially what we're saying here is you have to teach your top line leaders how to be humble. How to think that in this situation, what did we learn? From this person or this client, what did we learn? And if we can embrace this framework, the framework of how can we digest how we're going to scale our company by building leaders who then build leaders in our business. They're going to run the business for us. This framework is one of the most simple ways that when you teach this to your top line leaders and you show them how to do this, they then will replicate it and build your business for you. And this enables you to concentrate on things that you need to concentrate in your business, which is the pulse of the business. How are we doing? The foresight of your business, like where are we going? And how are we going to obtain these goals that we have in ahead of us, right? You need to focus on these things. So you need to have leaders who are building leaders in your business, who are taking ownership of the parts of the business that you've empowered them to do. Hopefully this was helpful for you and it's a way for you to digest how you scale your business by people. And we'll talk later on the next one.